It's a great honor to be asked. It's the second time in a few years that I'm here with the Institute. And it's lovely to see how you've grown and expanded and, grown in influence also. It is very necessary that we have evangelists for customer experience across the country. And you people are certainly doing that. So it's an honor, it's a pleasure. I feel privileged that you ask us to come. So what I'd like to do is, you've been told about this new book, The X in CX. I believe it's in all your gift packs, right? So you already have a copy. And what I'd like to do is share some excerpts from it, just to persuade you to read it, because not everyone is a book reader, let's face it. But I'd hope to convince you that this is worth delving into. It's very short, it's very readable, I hope. And I hope it will give you what you're asking for, the actionable insights towards the end of it. So what I'll do is I'll quickly talk you through some of the key points, and why I wrote it. And let's take it from there. And let's see if we can also make it fairly interactive. This is my 5th book, actually, and I wrote the first one, Crown Your Customer, more than a decade and a half ago. And that was, if I recall, it's a long time ago, an angry book, right? It was caused by customer anger in me, right? I would go around, I was a business advisor at the time, but I was also a customer. And I would go around experiencing all these offerings that businesses give you, including my clients, and think, what is wrong? Why don't people get this? How can you do this with customers? So it was quite an angry book. It was a bit of a tirade. It started off as a Sunday column. I wrote a second part, and that got the most responses ever. So, we thought we can turn this into a book. But there was a dissatisfaction at the time, that with the whole idea of customer experience. Do you feel it's improved? Before I tell you why I wrote this book now, are you confident that in your business, you are now doing pretty good offering pretty good customer experiences? Would you say that's true? People are nodding, so I hope so. You have to have confidence in your offering, right? But I'm also a bit aware that because earlier today we clapped for ourselves for just coming here on time, that the bar may be low, right? How confident are you that what you do with customers today, if it was tested, you would be in one of the upper tiers of customer experience in Kenya? Do you feel that with the organizations? You're looking more nervous now, right? Actually, people usually overestimate how good they are with customers. This is just a fact that we think we're doing quite well. We think we've really improved, If you go back 15 years, of course we have improved. The bankers here, with your apps, it's at your fingertips, banking. So surely that is better than the bad old days, when people used to just have to go to a branch and queue up and fill forms and go from counter to counter and then be told to come back next week, when the documents are processed, etc. Surely we are better. But even today, if you ask customers, if you ask businesses, 80% think they offer superior customer experience and are fairly convinced by this. Only 8% of customers think the same. So expectations also change people, right? Things move fast. And you can't have the same offering year after year after year and be okay, because customers are getting rewired all the time. Let me give you an example of the rewiring, which is in the book as an example. But I think, if I recall properly, I even said this to you when we last met a few years back, but it remains strong in my head. So a few years back, I think pre-COVID, somewhere there, I changed my phone number, completely, right? Don't ask why, it's just one of those things. And I sat down with my team and we worked out, okay, the number is changing. We don't want everyone to have it, right? But there are some key people who need to have it. Can we make a list and notify all of them, right? So certain selected clients and then a whole bunch of service providers, the key ones only, need to have this number, and we must tell them now. So we make our list, and of course, 2 banks are high on that list. They must know your number has changed. So I immediately call my RMs, both of them, and say, this is about to happen, the number is changing, this is the new number, are we good? And both of them said, of course, noted, consider it done. What do you think happened next? Did their systems follow? The RMs may have said, yes, done. So you see how you all know the outcome, yeah, without me saying it. So what actually happened is one of the banks took 6 months to change that number after many phone calls and angry letters, etc., emails rather. The second one actually took 2 years. Yeah, and I only knew 2 years later when I started noticing, how come I don't get those calls that ask me, you've written a big check and you need to be sure that this is you, etc. And I had written a big check to KRA. You know, our checks to KRA are the biggest of our lives. So you feel the huge pain when you sign that one. And then a few days later, I was thinking, how come I never got a call about that one? That's a huge check. And when I called to ask, they said, oh, yeah, we were calling your number. There was no answer. And which number were you calling? Yeah, the old one. So then they said to me, there's only one way around this. Please write us a letter and sign with ink and send it to us. Then the system will change. 2 years later. Now, at the same time this was happening, on the day that I changed the number and I inserted a new SIM into my phone, within 60 minutes, the phone beeped up a message, you seem to have put a new SIM card in. Do you want this to be your new number? And I said, yes. Do you want to keep or delete your old number? Delete. Yeah. Do you want this to go across all your devices? Yes. Done. 3 taps. Finished. That was my now comparator to the bank. So every time I would talk to the banks, 3 taps versus 2 years. Yeah. Now, all of our brains in this room have been rewired similarly. We expect things to be quick. We expect them to be seamless and, at a tap. And we can't keep up in the analog world. But the customer's brain is expecting that. So the minute you say hours will take a week, even a day, when every day they are used to things happening super fast, that's why you bankers don't get all the applause you probably deserve for putting in those apps, right? Because now it's an expectation. They've moved on. And the minute the app glitches, wow, the horror, the anger. Yeah, I was once recently at an event a month ago where a CEO was constantly on his phone and he started apologizing to me. I'm not doing other stuff. Yeah, it's just that the banking app has failed today. And I'm about to travel and I can't do it and I have to keep calling them and this is outrageous. I think I'll call the CEO himself. Yeah. And I was thinking, it's not really outrageous. Systems do go down, but look at the anger in it. Yeah. Because we are rewired. And we have to accept that smart technology has rewired all our customers' brains, including yours. So expectations are very high. Now let's start getting through some of the messages of the book. Yeah, and I start with this in the book. It's the customer stupid. For a good reason. I'm about to say something very obvious, but it's not as obvious as you think. So the customer pays for everything. We know this, right? We're good students. The top line comes from the customer. But here's the thing I'm really talking about. Revenue only comes from the customer and nobody else. And we forget this. We forget to say it to our staff all the time. Once the revenue is in, everyone else lines up to extract. Yeah, employees get their share. Government gets its share. Suppliers get their share. Partners get their share. And finally, shareholders get their share. Everybody's taking out. Only one group puts money in. every day. And that is the group, therefore, we must honor the highest, even above the shareholder, which is, heresy, in Kenya especially. But without that customer happily, willingly, enthusiastically putting money in day after day, there is nothing else that's going to happen. And shareholders also have to realize this, that the only contributor to their bottom line is this customer, and if that customer is happy and repeats, then we have a viable business. Otherwise, we simply don't. So simply to start with that blindingly obvious point, I think is very important. And you should use it with your staff, that whatever happens in your life, if you're an employee of this organization, your children's school fees, the mortgage you have on your home, your ability to travel, is all being paid for by these people we call customers. And that is why we say crown them. That is why we say listen to them. That is why we say delight them. Because they sustain all of us in everything we do. In my case, it's even more acute, right? My clients sustain me and my team, certainly, I know that. But my customers also sustain me. Because if my clients end up being very bad with their customers, I will suffer. So therefore, I am on a mission to make all of you CX evangelists. It's a selfish reason, but because I've understood this point, and I would love you to all become evangelists about this seemingly blatantly obvious point. But most people don't get it, that most of us are extractors. We're not contributors. Okay, so that's the first thing I'd like to say. If you get this wrong, you're writing a suicide note and you don't know. It's being written invisibly as you go. If you continuously mess up with your customers, you fail to rise to the occasion repeatedly, you are unable to grasp the centrality of the customer, your demise is assured. It's a question of when and how badly. And that's why we must, across the board, take this thing very seriously. It's easy to forget because, you can abuse customers for a while before they really turn on you, but they will turn eventually. And those months and years in which you are doing, mediocre stuff with your customers doesn't feel like a crisis. It's not like a cyber attack. It's not like a liquidity crunch, but it is a slow puncture. The bucket is leaking customers and you will soon run out, but it's slow. So because it's slow, we fail to treat it as a crisis. But honestly, if that thing keeps leaking, you will be done for. And again, that sense of urgency must be created in everyone. This is an important point now that the book covers. We have offerings. We create and design experiences for people. We are proud of those experiences. We put a lot of effort and money and time and attention and thought into them. And I want to say something blunt to you. It doesn't matter what you designed. What matters is what they feel. It's the sentiment of the customer that is your customer experience, not your well-designed offering. So your designs must take account of sentiment, emotion, because human beings are driven by emotion. I was just having a chat with your chairman over breakfast that when I was studying economics, the starting point of economics is that all humans are rational. And they are logical, and they maximize and optimize all the time. As a logical person myself, I found that really attractive as a student. Oh, great, so everyone really thinks it through and gets to the point of maximization, and you should just trust the system. But if you go and spend an hour with human beings, and say maybe you want to talk about politics, perhaps, or football, you conclude that hour and tell me human beings are rational. And they know their own interests. I think the Kenyan voter is an example of this over the decades, right? That we understand our own interests, really. Yeah. So the idea that customers will rationally receive our experience and give it a mark out of 10 and say, yes, this is 7.5 compared to the other guy's 5.5, I'm in, makes total sense, cost benefit. There's no one who's doing that. Maybe a few actuaries like Sandeep and his ilk, but even him, I doubt it, because we are human and humans are wired for emotion. This is why I stopped with economics, because there was no human and emotion going on at the time. Later on, they've found this gap and introduced behavioral economics, which was a huge gap in the discipline before that. Unfortunately, at my time, it wasn't a thing. Everyone was rational, it seemed, at that time in the world. So whatever you say you are offering, they have to feel it first. If they have strong sentiments towards your experience, you are fine. Strong positive sentiments. But if they have negative sentiments, you're cooked. So let me give you an example of this point. There's an old marketing saying, which you guys as professionals probably know, that no one buys a 1/4 inch drill. They buy a 1/4 inch hole. They want to make a hole in the wall. So when somebody goes to buy a drill, they're not really buying a drill. They want to make a hole in the wall. I've always thought that adage doesn't go far enough, because also nobody really wants a hole in the wall. Yeah, for what? Why do we want holes in the wall? To do what? Why do you make holes in your wall? To hang stuff, And what do you want to hang? Photos and, a clock, maybe certificates, right? Why do you want to hang them? Can you shout? Why do you want to hang them? Like, why bother? Visibility to whom? Like you hang all this stuff in your bedroom, right? Where no one can see it. No, it's in the living room where visitors will come. So what are you after? You're signaling, aren't you? You're sending signals. Look at my family, look at my holiday, look at my certification, etc. Right? What is all that? Feelings. You're hanging feelings on the wall. You have feelings and you want your visitors to have feelings about you. Right? So the person who walks into a hardware store and buys a drill is actually buying a set of feelings. They're buying validation within the human race. That I am also something, come and look at my wall. Yeah, I'm not a nobody. It's a very strong sentiment. But is the person in the hardware store selling feelings? Or are they just selling a drill? Ladies in the room, if you tried to buy a drill, you know no one sold you feelings, right? And had they done that, you would have been buying way faster. Yeah, but because it's usually a man who will tell you about what that drill is made of, yeah, and it's tungsten versus this and that and etc., you're not interested because you are interested in the feeling you're about to have. When a lady driver buys her first car, what is she buying? You know this, ladies. When you bought your first car, what were you buying? Was it a car? Can we agree it wasn't a car? It was a set of feelings, independence, dignity, comfort, yeah? And when you went to buy a car, what did you look for? Like, what were your deciding criteria? Men keep silent now. Well, the color, the size, the space, and the number of receptacles in the car where you can keep your stuff, right? Such an important point. Has any man ever thought that? That show me all the where I'll put my stuff. What they want is to open the engine, yeah, and look at that. And the color, men only know 2 or 3 colors. Yeah, if it's black, white, or silver, we're in. Maybe blue, but that's a bit radical. Yeah. Whereas ladies need to look at, is this color me? What does it say about me? What does it go with and not go with? What can I be wearing and not sit in this car, right? Etc. Yeah. Now, this is all about sentiment. And if you are selling to that target market, you must understand it. I gave this lesson to Toyota Kenya years ago. There are all these ladies who walk in and are being served by these men who talk to them about, the acceleration and the fuel mileage, etc. They're not interested. Yeah, and to their credit, they then put female showroom, ladies there. They even created, this was a very smart move, they created little cubicles. After you've seen the car, you sit together, the salesperson and the buyer, and you talk for an hour and have coffee about the car and other cars and what you want it for. Yeah. Whereas men want to take it out for a spin and see how fast it goes. Right? Once you get it, you start selling differently and you start offering different experiences. So my point here is, once you understand it's all about feelings, you will design differently. You will design your experiences differently. You will play on feelings, not on logic alone. I'm not saying logic goes out of the window. Logic drives a lot of success. But the real differentiator is, what do people feel and what have you made them feel? So, it's time for a reveal in the book, yeah? If you never read it, just remember this. What is the X? The X, what is the X factor in customer experience? It's just the culture and habits, and this has already been said by your chair. If you have the culture and daily habits that center on customer experience, you are fine. You will be okay, because that is the thing that's invisible but drives continuous success. All of us can be good at customer experience for a day, a week, a month, even a year. But year after year, in different locations with different people involved, to maintain a certain standard, that's one of the hardest things in the world. And there's only one way to deliver it, it is through culture and habits. People have to feel this thing, just like your customer has to feel it, so do your employees, and they have to deliver accordingly. And that's the only way we can do this. Now, you may think, therefore, I've understood the book and what he said enough, but what are you going to do with this statement? So it's culture and habits, How do you build the culture and habits? Because that's where the mystery lies, okay? And I think that's what I try to do in the book, is to show you how to do that. And I call it the 4 practices of CX Masters are these 4. Boss it, humanize it, digitize it, and jazz it. Okay, and I want to explain quickly all 4 to you. So, boss it, I say in the book, the culture and habits that drive the best CX come firstly from the leaders. So you are completely right, ICX, when you say the C-suite has to be involved. Because if this thing doesn't start from the top, I'll even say something different, not just the C-suite, the board of directors and the key shareholder have to believe this, that CX is everything. Because if they don't, it will be mediocre at best. Human beings are led for a reason. We set our standards up high and we mimic what bosses do, what our leaders do. So if it's going to be mimicked, it has to be set very high. Since you've allowed me to be blunt, can I continue being blunt? If you are here today attending this event without your CEO, I bet you're not very good at CX. Just a bet. And I'd like you to go back and say this to your CEO. Because this is not something you delegate. This is not something you say, it's for the CX specialists. You guys are specialists, you really matter. Right? You will deliver this thing. No doubt about that. But you need the backing from the very top, and you need very visible backing. So my exhortation to CEOs I work with is always get down there to the front line, yeah, meet your frontline staff and meet your customers systematically every month. At least one afternoon, 1 day, 2 days a month. You have no agenda, you have nothing else you're doing, just get down there and be very visible when you do it. I have made over the decades people sit in reception, CEOs, man the phones, handle complaints personally, feel the heat from the customer personally. And it's always an awakening for them. Yeah, one CEO manned the phones for a morning and told me after 2 hours I was going crazy. Because man, these people can shout and complain. And it was affecting my mental health. And I said, So now you know what happens to your guys, the ones you've been berating, yeah, you couldn't even sit there for half a day. So what do you why do you have then full day shifts for that work? Surely there should be 3-hour shifts. It has to be a design change, right? I've made people sit at the till and, or at the bank counter and handle stuff. Because I totally believe once you get it by being qua ground and you understand the vibe of the ground, that's when you will drive it in the boardroom. Not through some theoretical concept of, and not by reading reports, filtered reports. So your CEO, your board of directors, your shareholder has to be on board here. And if they are not, you will struggle. One of your evangelisms has to be to go back and say, honestly, this has to start from the top. You have to boss this thing. Without bossing it, if you think of any super excellent customer experience organization in the world, and there are very few, and almost no one can do it consistently, so don't beat yourselves up too much, right? But if you look at what differentiates them, there are bosses driving it from the very top. There is no option in this. So if you just delegate and delegate customer experience, you guys handle that, you'll be pretty good at best. But if you really want the oomph, there is no doubt. Yeah, there's a part in the book that even suggests what the board of directors should do around CX, which is an unusual thing to say to boards, but I say it all the time. Where is your CX activity in the year? When do you actually meet customers as a board? When do you talk to them? When do you hear their stories? When do you relate? When do you host them? When do you reply? Don't think it's not your job. Don't think, you have managers for that. Yes, you do. But there's a standard to be set and there's a visibility to be created. There was a bank that wanted to do a strategy session with me in Mombasa once. And I persuaded them that before the session starts, could you go half a day early and go around Mombasa and visit your bank branches and chat with customers, and then we'll start the following day. Based on what you heard, it'll be a nice input into the strategy session. Do you know what happened? I was almost going to the airport that evening because they had gone ahead, and the chairman called me. We've done what you said. We've enjoyed it so much and learned so much. You don't need to come. That thing is cancelled for now. Tomorrow we're just doing it even more. This has been a total eye-opener. And I said, I'm delighted not to come for that reason. Carry on. You'll tell me later what you picked up. But it can be a total eye-opener to spend time with customers. And our eyes are kept closed by many, many things. Okay, so that's boss it. It has to start at the top. It has to start at very high levels in the organization. Yeah. And when you guys become CEOs, please remember this. Yeah. You're still CX. You never stop being that. Okay, the second one is to humanize it. Now, what I'm saying here is, yes, we want great CX. There's only one way to achieve it, and that's through human beings. The people have to have the enthusiasm. So we have to be great people managers to deliver great CX. And our first attention should go to the human beings who are serving the customer. Before you get to how is the customer being served, how motivated are they? How enthusiastic are they? How willing to go the extra mile are there? Do they feel the pinch when things go wrong with customers or not? Do they understand their children's school fees are at risk when this keeps happening? Or have we not made that point to them? Do they love it when a customer is delighted? Do your employees' faces also glow when you're doing well with customers? Do you help them to glow? Do you praise them? Do you celebrate? Do you appreciate? That's the X. It's what happens to the human being at the center of this. Okay, so in the book I give lots and lots of examples of how this plays out. The third one, in today's era, we have no choice. For the reasons I mentioned earlier, we have to digitize. What else are we going to do when the world is digitized anyway, right? And I also talk about AI in the book. AI delivers speed and personalization. You can't ignore it any more than your forebears ignored electricity. It is the state of the world now. If you're saying, I have not engaged with AI, I don't know what it does, I don't believe in it, I think it's satanic, it's going to wipe us all out, it should be banned, I really hope that's not you, right? And if it is, you need to catch yourself. Because in CX, you'll be left behind. Now, there's a great conundrum coming. How much will we automate and how much will we leave it to an artificial intelligence, and where does the human still play? And I would urge you not to go too far into the automation too quickly, because those who have been reversing. Yeah, when AI, ChatGPT hit us 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of CEOs said, no more recruitment. The AI will first prove that the AI can't do this. They are now announcing, oh, we are back to human recruitment. Because the two have to play together. Yeah. Automation is great because it does speed and personalization. No doubt. Better than humans can. But at the end of the day, we are humans. I said we're driven by sentiment. We need to feel sentiment through other humans. So in fact, your game has to go up as a human, even though you automate. Yeah. Have any of you had adventures and misadventures with AI in the past few months? You know what it's capable of, I hope. You felt the, oh my God, yeah, when it can do certain things. And I hope you felt that, is my job safe? Yeah, because you should feel that thing. And then you should move on to say, it is safe because. And the because will be a set of human attributes. Yeah. So this is a tool. We must use it really smartly and intelligently, but it's a tool. It's not the takeover. Not yet. Right? So we are going to have to mix human and machine. And that's one of the biggest reasons I wrote this book, is that in this era of the human plus machine, how are we going to do CX? Yeah. How well and how badly and what risks do we carry when we go to full automation? The mix, the blend is going to be the key. The last point about the X in CX is to jazz it. Think jazz, don't think symphony. Yeah. There are no musical notes that I can give you and say, do this and your CX will be great. You do it your way. You shouldn't be benchmarking. There's so many people who ask me, tell me who does CX beautifully, show me what they do and I'll get my team doing it. No, it won't work. It has to be organic. Such an important word in the English language, organic, as opposed to forced or acquired. When something is organic, it develops from within naturally. Your style of CX should be yours. Others should look upon it and say, how do they do that? I wish I could copy them, but I can't. Now you're winning. When that sentiment goes around, I wish I could copy them, but I know I can't, you're winning. So don't imagine you have to do benchmarking and there are certain, there are some numbers involved, there are some metrics, no doubt. But at the end of the day, your character, your personality of your organization must come out. Customers relate best when they think that's you. Only you do this. And for banks in the room and insurance companies, that's the biggest challenge you face, is the similarity between you and all your offerings. When I visit different banks, they always try to convince me, look how different we are. And because I visit all of them, I think, but I just visited another one and they thought they were different in exactly this same way. You're not that different. And the difference will not come from mimicking features. It will come from creating your own original set of sentiments with your customer. A vibe, as the Gen Zs say. What's your vibe in CX? That vibe can only be yours. You can't copy it, you can't mimic it, you can't acquire it, you can't call in consultants to get it for you. You can, but you'll just spend money on nothing. What you can do is design your vibe into your offering. And go deep on your vibe. Yeah, let customers differentiate you in their minds from everyone else. Not because of the functionality of your experience, but because of the emotions they feel around it. Then you will be fine. Okay, so those are the 4 practices. I'll end just on this point, which is how the book ends also. Sure, great CX is very important. Sure, it boosts the bottom line. Sure, it pays all your salaries. Sure, it sends your kids to school. And those are all great reasons to do it well. But there's an even bigger one than any of that. When we are good with customers, we are showing our decency as human beings. We must not forget this. Great CX is also an act of kindness. It's not just functional. It's not just meet the metric, get the bottom line, hit the target. We are showing we are good humans. If we solve problems in your life, that's a good thing for us to be doing. If we create convenience and ease and speed in your life, we are fulfilling our purpose as human beings on this earth, which is not something you hear in business often. Yeah, it's all bottom line. But to me, that bottom line will be just fine. It will be more than fine if we can operate as decent human beings, both with our employees and our customers. Shareholders, you will be okay, provided you get this very difficult thing right of being decent humans. If you can look after your employees, they will look after your customers, and the customers will look after you, the shareholder. But there is a personal decency in this. If you are messing up, ignoring, neglecting, even abusing customers, you're not being human, you're being inhuman. And we must put this into our people that, yes, we want this because it's good for the business, but it's good for humanity that people are served and handled properly. Yeah, that they feel some warmth. It is an act of human kindness to do this. And to me, that's the single biggest reason any of us should have for doing this. Okay, I will stop there. I believe more or less on time. If there are a couple of burning questions, I'm happy to take them, but I will need to leave at some point. I know there's a panel coming up. I want to stay for as much of that as I can. A couple of the panelists are my students, so I kind of want to see what they'll say. No pressure, guys, but there actually is. I'd love to hear what is said in the panel, and I won't be giving marks, so don't worry. But if there's anything I said now that there's a comment or a question that you'd like to share, let me come down for this. I'm happy to take that. Any clarification needed or anything you agreed or disagreed with? Anyone?
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Sunny, for those great insights. You have a way with keeping things simple, but still very profound. My question has to do with this trend, and we have seen it as CX practitioners in recent times, the pressure for CX ROI and I can see people nodding because you see it on LinkedIn, you see it everywhere. Would like to hear your take around, what you think about that. Because I like what you've said about taking things back to CX being an act of kindness and the human decency. Have we now gone on the extreme end of really looking for ROI where it's not really where it should be? Thank you.
Okay. Since you allow bluntness, I'll continue in that vein. The ROI of CX is that you continue to exist as a business, yeah, and perhaps you thrive. And that's kind of it, yeah. It is so central that to just measure it, that we put this much money and we want this much return on CX, to me is putting it into a box. It doesn't belong in a box. Now, let's be in the real world also. Without metrics, without returns, without visible returns, without demonstrable returns, your CEOs will fire you, right? You won't last. So you have to play that game. But at the back of our minds, all of us should understand this thing is way bigger than I put this money here and I want this result here. Because all we're saying is money in, money out. I'm saying something completely different. Is there a return on decency? Is there a return on kindness? Is there a return on being a good human? These are the returns we're actually talking about. And if you can do those things, the R of ROI will take care of itself. I have watched this over the decades. If you do the right things in business and you do them consistently, you will be okay. You don't have to always fixate on where's the profit. The profit comes as a byproduct of doing good things. But unfortunately, in every board meeting, we zoom to the number. And the number is not adequate and it should be higher. But where does the number come from? Those numbers are not plucked out of thin air. They are the result of the culture and habits I was talking about. And if you can turn this into a culture, year after year after year, you will get the returns. The money will flow. School fees will be paid. You will see the world, right? But if you fail with your humans, both the human employee and the human customer, then it starts to unravel. So yeah, the trend is there of looking for ROI, specifically in CX. I don't recommend to anyone that you ignore it, because it's no doubt part of your job now, but also evangelize around it, that this is a bigger deal than it looks. Yeah, it is so central that it's like just measuring the profit of the business. Because where does that profit come from? It comes from happy repeat customers. There is no other formula any business person has ever uncovered to make profit other than happy repeat customers. That's what CX is all about. Okay. Good luck with saying that to your board of directors, but you may need me to come in and do some shouting. Anyway, any other question or comment before we move on?
Had a question.
Sorry, where are you?
Yes. Let me start by, my name is Josephine Shaura from Builders Duka. I'll start by tooting my own horn and saying that I brought my CEO.
Okay.
My question is around the practice of digitizing it. Since we're embracing AI as CX practitioners, maybe you could speak a bit about how to still maintain that human aspect, even as we digitize our platforms.
Okay, I will say something. Thank you for that. One of my most oft repeated mantras is humanize as you digitize, right? We must digitize. There's no question. You'll be left far behind if you don't digitize. But the winners will humanize as they digitize. Because consider 2 years from now, everyone is digital, everyone's using AI. How will you stand out? AI is available to everyone. Yeah, the same practitioners, same consultants will do the rounds and introduce it to every organization. 2 years from now, you'll all look exactly the same. How will you stand out? It's through the humans. When people are a little fed up of automation, they come back to humans. Yeah, there's some really interesting trends in the world if you spot. Do you know Gen Zs are embracing LPs, Remember LPs from your youth? Yeah. You gave your collection away. You shouldn't have done that. I gave mine away and I'm really regretting it. Yeah. Why? Because to them, this thing of you put a needle on something and the scratches create a sound, and the sound is actually better than the digital one, they are fascinated. LPs have been booming around the world. The other day I saw that in the UK, bookshops and books are booming. Traditional printed ones. Yeah. So when the human being has too much of something, they want to go back to a comfort. Or they want to go back to something they never experienced in the case of Gen Zs. Because Gen Z has been digital from birth. They reject all things analog until they don't. Right? So if you want to introduce something digital in the world, firstly, the human must embrace it. The employee must do the AI. And next, your customer must feel your AI emotionally. If they feel it only logically, there's only so much happiness they get from it. But if the ways in which you serve up AI and speed and personalization and convenience also has a sentiment around it, and there's a human involved who's transmitting that sentiment, you have now stood out. So by all means, investigate everything to do with AI. But tell yourself, we will not be the blind adopters. We will not be the ones who rush into this and lock out the human being, because we will lose in the end. We'll just be like the crowd. The way to win is to win through employees, which means enthusiasm, concern, commitment to the cause, yeah, and the willingness to answer those calls and fix those problems as a mission in life, as part of your human decency. If you can pull that difficult thing off, then you're fine. You will thrive. I would then love to come and visit you and see how you thrived and tell everyone in the world about it. But it's not blind automation. There is a phase coming in which we will all adopt these tools. We should. But you, the smart CX operator, should always think, human, human, human. Where's the human? Where's the feeling? Where's the sentiment? Even as I digitize, am I throwing up a bunch of emotions or not? Are they bad emotions? Because if they are, then we are causing only trouble for ourselves. If you put fear in your employees that this AI is going to take your job, for example, and that's how you start, well, good luck then after that. Yeah. If you put fear in the customer that I'll never meet a human again, they just make me jump through the hoops with these chatbots, which always get it wrong anyway, right? Then you created a problem for your customer. That was not your intention. So please experiment. The chatbots are going to be necessary, but that's not all you ever do. There has to be a human ready to intervene at any given moment. Yeah, and step in and say, okay, guys, let's laugh about the AI. Here I am, human to human. Like we used to talk, let's talk. So into the design, as Donia will no doubt tell you, must enter the human being and the human being's emotions. Otherwise, you're just creating a machine. And we're not interested in machines alone. We're interested in our place on earth as human beings. Okay, good, thank you. I hope I answered that. I believe we should move on now, if the organizers can tell me. It's time for the next thing. So, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope that you understand the ethos of this. By way of practicality, I would just say to you, this is to persuade you to read the book. In the final chapter, I go into what you should do immediately for great CX, what you should do in the medium term, and what you should do in the long term. So it ends with some doables, which I hope will, and you can't just jump to the last chapter because we need to, there's a sequence. It was designed. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I also look forward to the panel. Thank you.